On today's episode, we're going to be talking, Rola and I are going to be talking about the first three games of the season, breaking that down, briefly touching on the next couple of games that are going to happen between now and the next episode. And we're going to get into all that. Um, Also, just wanted to mention, Rola and I kind of just started getting into learning how to do this whole podcast thing. It's been something that we've wanted to do for a long time, and we just decided to do it. We're kind of figuring things out. So these first couple episodes might be a little bit rough, but I think as we start to figure it out, we get some really good content for you guys. So we're excited for that. Try and bear with us until that time. But what I wanted to preface this episode with was it is currently 12:13 a.m. here Pacific time um, on October 31st. Happy Halloween. But I wanted to do a little emergency meeting because about 30 minutes ago, maybe just a little, it was like an hour ago or something like that. I don't even know. But basically, James Harden, PJ Tucker, and Philip Petrusev were traded to the Clippers for a package of Nick Batum, Marcus Morris, KJ Martin, Robert Covington, and multiple draft picks and a pick swap. And I think there might be a third team reportedly. I haven't heard anything yet, but third team getting involved to send draft capital of some kind to the 76ers. Um, but yeah, so it happened, guys. It finally happened. I, on paper, I'm kind of all for it, uh, but there's a lot to um, there's a lot to dissect here. Um, Nicholas Batum will always be one of my favorite Clippers. Um, just the way that he handled himself, a consummate professional. He was the leader of the Batum Battalion, um, and I think he was a huge part of um, those amazing comebacks that we'd have, or that series. Both the series against Dallas and against Utah in the playoffs a couple years back, um, when we went on that comeback run against Utah, and we took the Mavs to 7. And I think that was he was such an integral part of the culture, and uh, who the Clippers were, who they identified as. He was kind of that voice of reason, I think, a lot of the time in the locker room and on the floor. I mean, and you know, the last year, season, maybe season and a half, there's been a little bit of a decline physically. I mean, he's getting up there. He's been playing the game for a long time, but I mean, he is one of the best role players that the Clippers have ever had, in my opinion. Did everything right, didn't force anything. Underrated defender, could guard 1 through 5. Underrated passer. He can shoot the piss out of the ball at times. He always seemed to hit big shot after big shot for us, and I'm gonna miss Nick for sure. Um, Marcus Morris, uh, there has been a lot of polarizing. He's been a polarizing figure in the Clipper sphere for a long time. I would say particularly the last 2.5 years. Um, and that doesn't come. I think that that's all valid. I've been out on Marcus Morris, as a player for this team for a little while. I think early on he was counted on to do so much on the offensive end when Kawhi and PG were out, and he stepped up to the plate more times than not. And he was really good for us, and I think certain parts of his tenure as a Clipper should be looked at fondly. Um, but I think that there was just a disconnect with him and the coaching staff or the front office or something, and that there was definitely some, at least from what I have seen and heard, there was a little bit of bad blood towards the end of last season when he wasn't being played as much. And if I'm being honest, yeah, I think that he should have been coming off the bench more, or had his minutes reduced significantly. It's just the juice wasn't there anymore. He lost a lot of rebounding. Um, he lost a lot of his like rebounding drive to get rebounds, and his shot wouldn't fall as much, and his shot selection was pretty suspect at times. Um, so definitely a polarizing figure in Clipper history, but I think that his tenure as a Clipper should be looked at, fondly in a lot of ways too. And I think hopefully he gets an opportunity to contribute over in Philly. Uh, Robert Covington, when he came to the Clippers, um, in the deal with Norman Powell, I kind of thought of it as not an afterthought, but I thought that okay, maybe he'll play a couple minutes here and there, and unfortunately, that kind of was the case. He wasn't playing as many minutes as he should have, and that kind of leads me to my point of it seemed like every time Rocco stepped on the floor, he always did something valuable. He had quick hands, or he has quick hands. He's still with us. Speaking of past tense, but um, he he's got quick hands. He can rebound. He can shoot. And he always seemed to kind of contribute in some way. And during the time last year when he was losing a lot of minutes to Marcus Morris, and just was getting DNP'd game after game, he was always a professional, always cheering on the team from the bench, and he had a positivity and a spirit to him that um, you got to have guys like that around your team. Um, you know, win, lose or draw, they're going to support the team that they're on and their teammates, um, and they're going to understand that it is a business, and sometimes they're not going to get playing time, or they're not going to be put in a position where they can maximize their potential. And that was something that I've always really admired about Rocco in his time with the team, was just the way that he carried himself on and off the floor. So I'm hoping that he gets he gets some love from Philly, and gets some playing time, because he can still play. I mean, we saw it in the first 3 games of the season. This season, he contributed. He can play. And KJ Martin, I was really excited when the Clippers traded the couple second round picks for KJ Martin. That's a dude that I liked coming into the league. He was a Sierra Canyon kid. I'm, in the LA area, and I love watching all the kids that come out of the local area, local schools. And his dad played for the Clippers, and I was a big fan of Senior Kenyon Martin Senior. When he played, he was only with the Clips for a short period of time, but I like the way that he carried himself, and he was a beast in his prime. So I was really excited to get KJ, explosive athlete, probably, honestly, probably the best dunker, best finisher that we've had at that position since Blake. So I was really excited to see what would happen with that. Unfortunately, he is going to be traded to the 76ers, and we won't get to see that. But I think that he's got a long, successful career ahead. He's a great cutter, great finisher, really underrated defender from what I've seen. Stays vertical when contesting shots, and he's got a promising career ahead. So I wish all of those guys the best of luck in Philly and for the rest of their careers. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that before we get into the pod. We've been trying to put this first episode out, Rola and I, for the past couple weeks now, and we've just had technical difficulties, or we've been trying to figure stuff out. We had to change things, this or that, and and we got one done today. And then, I was getting ready to put it out, and then this news dropped. So I just wanted to preface this episode with that. And so this episode that you're about to hear is going to be hours before the Harden trade. So there's going to be stuff in there that unfortunately isn't pertinent anymore. But we will Roland and I will talk about that, all of that, on next episode. So without further ado, let's make it happen. What's going on, Clipper Nation, and welcome to the Clip Service Podcast. Podcast made by Clipper fans, for Clipper fans, just two buds, been buds for 15 years, something like that.
Yeah, about there.
Big Clipper fans, have been since we were young, and we decided to make a podcast. We don't really know what we're doing, but we're going to try our best, so please bear with us. I'm your host, Nick. This is my co-host, Rola, and we're here to tiptoe our way through this process and make it enjoyable for everybody. So, Rola, you want to tell us a little bit about the pod and why we decided to do this?
Yeah, what's up, everyone? Like Nick said, my name's Rola, and been a Clipper fan for a long time. So I'm looking for a good season from my boys in the Clippers, and a good season from the fans, Clipper Nation. So in our podcast,
guys.
we're just going to be covering, kind of like recapping the players and player performances, who should be getting minutes, who shouldn't be, kind of like news and rumors, Twitter, what's going on in the basketball world, and we're really gonna like the segments we're gonna do, and kind of like the things we're gonna do is like hot takes
We're
and
definitely
different
gonna
things
try
like
that
that.
out.
So
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a fun season. So we'll see where we go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of anticipation behind this season, particularly from the people that have been with the team for a long time. Fans of the team for a long time. Because the last couple of years we've come pretty closer than we probably have in a long time. I mentioned me and Rola have been fans for a while, and my dad was a fan of the Knuckleheads era. The Darius Miles, um, Q Rich, Lamar Odom, Corey Maggette, and Rola and I kind of started becoming fans. Actually, coincidentally, around the same time, Elton Brand and. I think I have a Chris Kaman jersey around here somewhere.
Damn,
Um,
bro.
and so that
My
was kind of when we
Chris.
started taking over. But basically, during those times, the Clippers had a long way to go in terms of like becoming a legitimate, contender.
Very long
When
way.
What's that?
Very long way. You
Yeah,
you gotta emphasize that. Very long way to go.
that's true.
Um, we've never really been too good up until the Chris Paul era. Blake Griffin kind of put us on the map there.
Mob City.
And then after that you got the earthquake, and then Kawhi Leonard to the Clippers, and kind
Yeah,
of it's been a history since then. But like you were saying, we've always been so close. We've always had one of the best teams in the league to start the season, and they call it the Clipper curse because every year we should be in that mix, and we don't usually end up there. But every year is a new year and a new
true.
season, and we still remain hopeful that one day we'll raise that banner, and maybe it'll be this season.
For sure. I think that was kind of the point I was going to make was I think this season, more than a lot of others in the past, just being that it's a contract year for Kawhi and PG. It is it or is it not, like the sun setting on the 2-run-3 era? We don't know. There's a lot of question marks. Depending on who you ask, there's a lot of question marks for this team. Um, and is this unit sustainable? The 2-1-3 unit, is this sustainable? And so I think that some people would call this a make or break season. I think it's pretty close. There's a lot of gray area involved, but basically, yeah. Bottom line, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of concern for some people too. I think that we want to approach this season like it's the last chance to get it done with this core that we have. And I
Hmm.
think from every indication that I've heard in the offseason, it seems like the team is kind of approaching things that way. Ty Lue's mentioned. I've heard you hear from multiple outlets that Ty Lue has mentioned that he wants to take the regular season seriously. Um, which is something that we've kind of struggled with the last couple of years, kind of playing for the playoffs. And then something happens and we barely make the playoffs and we're just not ready. The seeding is all off. We end up creeping into the playoff picture as like a fifth seed, sixth seed, something like that. So I think it's just having that discipline. And from what I've heard this offseason, the way we looked during preseason, and then what we're going to talk about next with the first three games of the season, minus a little slip up in Utah. Um, we've looked like we're taking things a little bit more seriously from top to bottom. Ty Lue and both of Kawhi and PG both have you know carried themselves with a level of seriousness that's good to see. And then obviously having Russ, a full off season of Russ, and starting a season with Russ, and him bringing that vocal leadership that has been so much more than I think a lot of Clipper fans, including myself, could have ever hoped for. Um, and you have Bones, who's we'll talk about it in a second, but Bones has looked like he has grown quite a bit this offseason. Not just
Yeah.
apparently he put on like 11 pounds of muscle, but mentally too. I think that the way that he's approaching the game, he's approaching the game and with a little bit more discipline, and you know he doesn't seem to when he's attacking the basket or making a play or something like that. It looks like he's a little bit more decisive with what he wants to do. It's either I'm going to go and score or I'm going to make a play for somebody. It's not as reckless. And then obviously our boy Terrence Mann, Rola and I are big Terrence Mann heads,
Huge.
and we're excited once he comes back from his from the ankle injury that he got. I think right before the regular season
Yeah.
started.
Do you mind going into, like, I guess his injury and what exactly happened?
Yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah.
you know?
So apparently he was contesting a shot during some shoot around or a scrimmage or something like that. I think a day or two before the regular season started, and he came down on somebody's ankle, turned it, and then he was in a walking boot. Law Murray on Twitter posted a couple pictures and tweeted a couple times that that Terrence was in a walking boot, and I think actually just to either today or yesterday he was out of the boot. Um, so I think he's on his way back, but prior to that, it was uh, it was being reported that he was going to be a part of the starting lineup, which is something that a lot of us,
Hmm.
Rola and I, and a lot of Clipper fans were preaching. Last year, it was like 10 games where Terrence Mann was in the starting lineup, and we played pretty
Yeah.
well. And I think it's a good fit. He just offers a lot
I
of
think he's always done well in the starting lineup.
yeah,
From my recent memory, I feel like every time he's been put in the starting lineup, he contributes so much and he brings so much energy to a kind of on the elderly side of teams in the NBA. I believe we're one of the oldest teams in the NBA, so a lot of our players don't come out with that high intensity energy that Terrence Mann brings. So I think when he steps onto the court and and those older guys kind of see him working for every ball, working for every rebound, working for every steal, like, put it in the work to make himself. kind of useful in that starting lineup, I think that's something that's huge. And I think have seen it every time he's in the starting lineup. When he has the ball in his hands, he makes good choices. He's just a hard worker, and everyone in the league knows this. So I mean, with Terrence Mann, it's the sky's the limit for that kid, man. It sucks that he's just got injured, but it seems like he's going to be back pretty soon here, and I think this is going to be a big season for him. And
Yeah,
I'm hoping that he goes off when he comes back and improves everyone that he deserves to be in the starting lineup, and he
totally.
deserves to have more minutes.
Totally. Yeah, I think you and I say it all the time that there's very few people in the league that do what Terrence Mann does to the level of the level that he does it.
Hmm.
Um, there's players like him. You could say like an Alex Caruso or Bruce Brown or someone like that. That kind of does a little bit of everything. The thing that stands out to me so much about Terrence. He's not necessarily going to be a guy that's going to give you 40 every night or even 20. That's not his role. He's a guy he's not going to force the issue. He's not going to, make any mistakes, or he's not a chucker. He's going to take
Hmm.
smart shots. He's going to take, obviously, we saw it in the playoffs in, when was that? 2019.
Yeah, 2021,
COVID threw
22,
everything
20.
off. Honestly, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't even know what date anything was anymore. But yeah, when in the game 6 of the series against the Jazz that sent us to our first conference finals, um, you know, uh, dropping
39
39
points.
points
Yeah.
doing stepping up to the plate shows that he's not afraid of the moment. I think Terrence is so important to this team, and the coaching staff finally recognizing that and giving him the opportunity to start with two Hall of Famers, three Hall of Famers with Russ, and show everybody that he's got a place in that rotation. I think is really important. It's something that we've wanted to see for a long time. So yeah, we're happy to hopefully get him back soon, and excited to see what he looks like in the starting lineup. But I think right now, I think we should cover the first 3 games of the season.
Hmm.
I think starting with the Clippers win versus Portland last Wednesday, 123, 111. What is some takeaways that you can that jump off the page for you right away, Rola?
Yeah. So the first thing I saw or kind of realized after I watched the game was we put up 123 points, and it wasn't just one player that just put up like 50 points. Everyone kind of contributed. I mean, Paul George had 27 points. I'm looking at the box score right now. Paul George had 27 points. Kawhi had 23 points. Zubac had 20 points. You know what I mean? Bones Highland had 17 points. Amir Amir Coffey, or no, Norman Powell had 8 points. Like everyone put in their work. And another thing that stood out to me was Paul George is balling. I mean
He looks
that's
good.
all we need at the end of the day is for him to step up. We know what we're gonna get from Kawhi. He's gonna give us the same thing every game. That's why he's one of the best players in the league, and that's why he, as far as we know, will be the best player, one of the best players in the league in the future. Is because he gives you what you need every night. It's kind of Paul George that's a little bit up and down. One night he gives you 30 plus, another night he may give you 15, and we just need him to be consistent and give us 25. Like Kawhi is always going to give you 25. Um, you mean Paul George had 6 assists, 3 rebounds, like he was balling. He had a good game. Kawhi, 23 points, 6 assists, 5 boards, 5 of 5 from three. Just an efficient game.
Yeah, that was what
He,
stood out to me the most was
yeah.
Kawhi. Kawhi can obviously hit hit from three. He can score from anywhere, but
Mhm.
5 for 5 from three is pretty incredible. That's some Luke Kennard numbers, and
That is some Luke Kennard numbers.
RIP. He's not
Um,
dead. He's just not with the team anymore. But
yeah, I mean, Kawhi's going to give you. I mean, 5 of 5 is unreal. You can't really ask for a better game
yeah, no,
offensively from him. some games he might pour on the points. Some games, he might play more defense. But another thing that kind of stood out to me was Zubac with 12 boards.
Yeah, Zoo had a good game. Aiton conversely had a really kind of shaky game.
Mhm.
2 for 4 from the field. You only had 4 points. I think that Zoo definitely, I think it's just part of Aiton being part of a new team. But Zoo definitely set the tone down there. I think Zoo had a couple blocks, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and or he made his presence felt down low, and Zoo is when Zoo's on and Zoo's engaged. I think that he's uh, perfectly serviceable. Better than most starting center in the league, and I think that he provides this team with like that defensive backbone, and he can rebound the ball when he feels like it, and I think with him, sometimes it's between the ears a little bit, but he had a really good game that first game there in against Portland, and yeah, I don't know. I think the thing that stood out for me, or one of the things that stood out for me the most, was 36 assists. We really did a good job of moving that ball around, and I think a lot of that started with Russ. Russ, let's see, I have it somewhere.
He
Yeah,
had
Russ
13
13.
assists.
Yeah, 13 assists, and he was a plus 30, and he just looked
Yeah,
engaged. He was dunking. I think he had like 5 or 6 dunks. He looked like kind of like the old Russ that we're so accustomed to seeing, and man, like it's games like that where when I found out the Clippers were going to trade for Russ, or not trade for Russ, but sign Russ, and
yeah, pick him up.
and I had my doubts. I think a lot of people did just because of the shooting numbers. Historically, he's not a very efficient, actually, like very very low
Very below.
efficiency shooter, particularly behind the arc. But I just I had my questions, but after even though it wasn't the outcome that we wanted after that first round against the Suns in last season's playoffs, with just the way that he approached the game and the way that he kind of put the team on his back without Kawhi and PG. Kawhi played the first 2 games, but after that it was kind of the Russ show, and I don't know, just the way that he approaches the game, and you hear about it from his teammates. Um, that he's such a good teammate, and he's an even better person, and I
Hmm.
think that we haven't had that vocal leadership, and that like yeah, I mean mostly just the vocal leader since we lost
Pat
Pat.
Bev.
So
Yeah.
um, I think that has gone a long way, and it showed. I think it was the game against Portland was that encapsulated to me, was just the effect that when Russ is engaged and he's not forcing anything, he's letting the game come to him. I mean, it elevates the floor of this team so much, and
Hmm.
you can see it, from the top to bottom. Guys like playing with Russ. At least the guys in the Clipper locker room. Uh,
I
Russ
think
is
that's
really.
Yeah, I think that's been the most like consistent thing when it comes to Russ is I feel like any team he's on, no teammate has ever had a single bad thing to say about him. One thing that they say every team he's been on, every player he's played with, has all everyone has said that he brings the energy every single game, every single day, every single practice.
And he's available. Like that's
Yeah,
another big thing is he's always, availability is the best ability
right,
in the league, and
right.
um, he
And
he
that's
just
one thing that
plays
the Clippers need specifically.
right.
But yeah, he brings that energy. And kind of going off of, I mean, your reaction when he was first traded, I kind of had the same reaction. I remember we were talking about it, and we were just afraid that he was going to be. And I mean, he was coming from the Lakers, and I mean, you know how Lakers fans are, and kind of the Laker Nation is.
Oh
They're
yeah, we're
they're
gonna talk about that a bunch on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty negative when it comes to their players. If they, I mean, they have such a high, and it's understandable. They have such a high expectation for anyone that wears their jersey, and so someone that doesn't meet their expectations is immediately, you know, trash to them.
Yeah. For
So
the
I
most
guess
part, we're not talking
yeah,
about all
for
Laker
the most
fans.
part, but
We have friends that are Laker fans.
yeah,
We're not trying to throw
yeah.
too much shade,
No, no,
but
I'm not
fuck you
throwing shade.
guys.
It's just the it's just the truth of of their fandom.
No, for
Um,
sure.
I mean,
Just from
and
what we've
that
seen,
has an effect on their players. Like they act
for
like
sure.
it doesn't,
The whole
and
Danny Green thing. There was Danny
yeah,
Green getting death threats for missing too many threes.
it's yeah, it's kind of crazy, but it obviously had an effect on Russell Westbrook, and
Yeah.
we saw that, and everyone saw that, and I guess our reaction was that he was going to bring that type of energy to the Clippers, but I think Clipper fans are different. I think we're more optimistic when it comes to our players,
For
and
the
I
most
think
part, I've seen. I don't know, man. I've seen some of the Marcus Morris memes that I've seen on Twitter.
no,
Uh,
but well, I'll get into this later. But I think yeah, like I'm glad we're doing this. We're not. I don't want to say we because I'm not as low on Marcus Morris as a lot of Clipper fans are. Um,
I'm pretty low on Luke. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, no, I get it. But I think we need like as Clipper fans, I think our voice needs to be heard, and I think sometimes we let a lot of our players off the hook for
Yeah,
things.
there's a
And
rose-colored glasses kind of vibe. You know, we're trying to
yeah,
look at the glass half full
exactly.
when
And
there's about
one thing
that
about
much liquid in there.
one thing about Lakers fans is they like you see that they have an effect. If they hate a player, if their fans hate a player, that player is gone.
Yeah,
Like their entire fandom hated Russell Westbrook, and like they ended up basically just getting rid of him.
yeah,
And that's the thing is, I think we can have that effect on our team as fans, and I think we need to put a little bit more pressure on our stars like Kawhi and Paul George. I mean, we're seeing we've been I mean they've been on the team since what like 2020 so
before that,
or is it
before that,
2019?
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
pretty
so I
positive.
mean I mean they've been together, they've had so many years and together, and yeah, there's been injuries and things like that, but I think as fans we need to put a little bit more pressure on them. I think there's no reason for us or for them to not take a regular season lightly, considering how much they get paid, and or not take a regular season seriously, considering how much they get paid, and how much expectation is, how much we expect of them, and we've fallen short every single year. So it's just one of those things where I think as fans we need to hold them accountable. We're expecting a championship from them, and they haven't provided that to us. I mean, we're in Los Angeles and we're competing with the Los Angeles Lakers, and within in that time span of them being in the city of Los Angeles, the Lakers have won a championship and we
Right.
haven't. So it's just one of those things where, as fans, like we gotta let them know we need something. You know,
Yeah. No,
do you have any
totally.
input on that?
Totally, totally. I think going back to the original point, though, um, we're going
My
off
bad.
on a no, 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 no. We're going off on a tangent here, but I think going back to the original point, I think you can see that Russ feels appreciated. He's
Hmm.
playing free, and he's not a perfect player, just like every other player in the league. Every player has their shortcomings, and sometimes they're more prone to do something that might be more negative. Russ has a tendency to turn the ball over, every once in a while more than normal, but as do so many lead guards. But I think the biggest thing is he looks like he feels appreciated, and he should, because I can speak for a lot of Clipper fans that I know. Um, we are very. I mean, I'm very happy to have Russ, and he's changed a lot of people's perspective of him, perception of him, just with the way that he's carried himself, and looking at his situation objectively, and seeing that he just wants to play, and he just wants to feel appreciated, and be with a team that's going to let him play to his strengths. I mean, he's a very unselfish player. I didn't used to think so, to be honest with you, but he's obviously a extremely elite passer, and he's got the vision, and he wants to
Right.
play for his teammates. Sometimes to a fault, sometimes he tries to do too much, but I think that's endearing in and of itself. So, um, yeah, that first game, Russ really set the tone. Kawhi and PG, did their thing. Like we said, PG with 27, Kawhi with 23. We shot, 76 from the free throw line, and we shot a pretty decent clip from three. The offense was humming. We shut Scoot down. I still think Scoot's going to be a really good player, but he got off to a pretty rough start, and I think we we made sure to act like we were the vets and we were the team that's
Mhm.
trying to contend for a championship. So I think that first game was about as good as we could have hoped for.
Yeah.
Now on Friday, 2 days later, we went into Utah, a building where I don't think we've won during the regular season. I think it's been like the last 6 games we've lost in Utah, and it makes sense.
Really.
Yeah, it's a hard building to play in. Those Utah fans are really into their team, and they get loud. But unfortunately, yeah, the Clippers did drop to the Jazz 118, 120. There was a couple viral clips that came out towards the end of the game. The most popular being Russ grabbing an offensive rebound off of a Kawhi game winning shot attempt, and hitting a turnaround J that didn't even touch the rim, and Kawhi falling to his knees. It was all over House of Highlights, the Sports Center, and everything. And so it was definitely didn't feel the way I did about the Portland game as I did about the Utah game. But Rola, break down what you thought about that Utah game. I want to hear what you got to say
Yeah, so
first.
I'm gonna go in on the good first, and then the bad of that game. The
I like it.
good, first and foremost, has got to be Paul George, 15-15 from the line from
Oh
free
yeah,
throw. That is unbelievable. He is
the dude needs to be averaging probably like I would say at least 8 to 10 free throws a game at least.
easily, easily, because he when he gets in the paint, he draws fouls,
Yeah,
and that's probably one of his skill sets. Like I say, man, Paul George is
he was
is
on his bully shit, dude.
he's on
As
his
he
bully
as as he
when
said.
he's in that mode. He is a top five player in the league, and no one can tell me otherwise. He is elite at every level, every part of the game of basketball. He
Yep.
has no weakness, literally zero weaknesses. He's quick. He has handles, 3 point shot, free throw line, defense, perimeter, guarding 1 through 5. Like he's a completely different animal when he's in his zone,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things when you shut down one part of his game, he'll transition to another. You want to guard him at the 3 point line? Fine, I'll get to the paint. I'll draw fouls and I'll hit every single free throw. And that's one thing about Paul George, man, that I don't think a lot of people and a lot of players have is that multifaceted game. Second thing is Kawhi had a a great game. He's consistent. He's going to give you the same numbers every game. You know where you're going to get 25 points, 9 boards, 5 assists, 1 turnover. Just honestly, a great game from Kawhi up until that last shot.
Yeah.
And I'll go into that in the bad, but that was kind of Norman Powell at 20 points, great off the
Yeah.
bench,
Norm had a good
providing
game.
some good scoring. Bones Highland had a great game. And then I'll get into the bad, and to me the number one bad was Russell Westbrook. I thought he had a very poor game. I think 4 points is unacceptable from a starting point guard that played 37 minutes. He had 5 turnovers, led the team in turnovers. I mean, he had 9 boards, but that kind of doesn't overshadow the poorest game he had. No one really contributed in that starting lineup outside of Paul George and Kawhi. Zubac had 6 points after having 20 points in the first game. Robert Covington 4 points. Honestly, it's just unacceptable from our starting lineup. I'm sorry, you can't be playing that many minutes. Well, I mean, except for Russell Westbrook, they played Zubac and Covington played 20 minutes each, and 4 points and 6 points is unacceptable to me. But especially Russell Westbrook, I'm sorry, you can't have 4 points. That's completely unacceptable. Kind of my question is, what were you doing? What were you doing in 37 minutes? Because I mean, in the last game, Paul George and Kawhi kind of gave similar numbers. I mean, Paul George maybe took a couple more shots and hit a couple more shots, but I'm sorry, you had the ball in your hands for a lot of the game, and I think that 4 points should not be um, all we get from someone like Russell Westbrook.
Russ, if you're listening to this, Rola is calling you out. He's basically saying that he wants to go one on one with you. So get at us at
No,
Twitter or X. It's at Clipper or at Clip Service Pod. Get at us. Rola wants to take you one on one.
yeah, no, that's no. I would not. I would like to keep both of my ankles and all of my knees because he would torch me. But when it comes to an NBA level, and comparing him to other NBA players, and comparing him to other NBA stars and superstars, I don't think he is close to that level currently. Um, because I think he can be when he turns it on, and he has his moments. But I feel like most of the time, uh, he kind of just, I don't want to say collapses, but he kind of seems lost in the game, and he has like a one way direct way of thinking, and I think that kind of gets him stuck in and makes him kind of easy to guard. I don't know. Do you have anything to say about that?
I think you're wrong.
Okay, elaborate.
I don't want to.
All right.
No, no, no. I do agree that kind of like I touched on before. I think every once in a while, it's kind of always been the thing with Russ. Sometimes he'll try and do too much, and it'll kind of get in the way of his decision making.
Hmm.
Like you said, five turnovers, for one person is too many. Particularly, and giving him, I think he probably played too many minutes. I would say 37 minutes. He was tied for second most amount of minutes to Paul George at 38, and him and Kawhi had 37 apiece. But yeah, I just think there were a couple things that stood out to me. I can live with 4 points from Russ, to be honest with you. Particularly when PG and Kawhi had the game that they did. It's not great to see six from Zoo and four from Rocco. Also, I just want to say I'm very happy that Robert Covington, with Terrence Mann out, very happy that Robert Covington is starting and it's not, you know,
But can I say this really quick? I don't understand how you could be happy with Russell Westbrook giving us 4 points, because I'm thinking if he gives us 10 points, we win that game. You know what I mean?
I mean,
And I'm not,
you
and
could.
I'm making it, I'm simplifying it, obviously, but from someone who is a Hall of Famer, and who has been able to score points in this league, you have got to give us more. I'm sorry, it doesn't really matter unless Paul George is dropping 60 points or 40 plus. I don't really see a reason as to why you're playing 37 minutes. That's a lot of minutes, and 4 points is all you give us. Like, I just don't understand how you can be okay with that.
Yeah, I just think with Russ, it would be a different story if Russ had, he only had four assists. He had one less assist than Kawhi that game actually, and if he was sharing the ball and he had nine assists, 10 assists even, I would be more okay with it. I still think that because it's early in the season, um, you know, and we were one 3 pointer, Kawhi 3 pointer away from winning the game. I think with a guy like Russ, because he does do so many other things, um, when he's engaged, I can live with 4 points. This time around, as long as it's not a common theme. Because, like I said, I know what Russ can do. I know that he affects the game in so many ways. Not even necessarily, excuse me, not even necessarily on the stat sheet. I
Mhm.
think that just the way that he approaches the game uh, inspires a lot of people. I think that if he can get other guys involved and mitigate the amount of mistakes that he makes, I'm okay with 4 points. Um, I think you have a point. Like we do need. It's basketball is all about offense pretty much nowadays.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to put up buckets when you're called upon and stuff. You got to be able to shoot when the shot's there for you. But yeah, I think just based on the fact that it's early on in the season and we know what kind of player Russ is, this time around I can live with 4 points. I think that another thing that stood out to me that I didn't like was our center rotation. Zoo only having 2 rebounds, Plum only having 4. Um, Plumlee only played 12 minutes, but I think that Utah's got Walker Kessler down low. Olynyk can play big when he wants to. They have a pretty big front line. They added John
Hmm.
Collins, can jump out of the building. When you're playing a team that has those sturdy, you know, uh, formidable bigs, I think you got to play big, and I think we need that from our center, our starting center, and our backup center. We just need, we need more of a presence on the boards. We got out rebounded like a motherfucker this game. I think we had 36 to their 45, and they're Walker Kessler's up next as far as some like the best defensive bigs in the league. He's really good. He's still young. Olynyk's been solid for a long time. They have some good bigs, and I think when you're playing a team like that, you gotta step up to the plate, and we gotta have a little bit more from our front line, particularly when we go small, we're trying to stretch the floor. Obviously, I understand, giving up a rebound or two. But when the bigs come back in, that's your job. You gotta go toe to toe with these big guys, and at
Yeah.
least give us more than 2 rebounds. So I think that the Russ thing, uh, Zoo's performance, I would have loved to see a little bit more from Rocco. He looked good on the defensive end. Got picked up 2 steals. Brian Siemens says he's got the fastest hands in the West. I think that he's really good at getting those deflections. He's an underrated shot blocker for his size. But yeah, I would have liked to have a little bit more offensive production from him. Um, so there were just little things, and I think it's magnified by the fact that there are such high expectations. We didn't go and trade for James Harden this year. We have pretty much the same core group of guys, so I think it's important that we treat every single win like it's the most important game of the season. Particularly early on, we have an easier early part of the schedule, so I think that we got to try and rack up as many wins as we can to start out the season. So I think that it was magnified by that a little bit. I heard a lot of hot takes on Twitter um, about this game, and I get it. It's easy to be frustrated with this team given the team's history, and there's always some sort of question mark going on with the Clippers about does this combination work? Are Kawhi and PG going to stay healthy? This and that. Um, so I think that it's easy to get down on a loss like this, but I think that there were a lot of good things to take from this game too. Like you said, Paul George, 15 of 15 from the free throw line. He looked aggressive. Honestly, Paul George has looked
Hmm.
like one of the best players in the game right now up to this point early
Yeah.
on in the season. Like I was mentioning before, he said in the offseason that he's on his bully shit this season, and it's looked like it so far. He's come in with a different approach, different mentality. We know what we're going to get from Kawhi, and both of them are still healthy. So I think as long as we can get out of every game with those two still being able to walk off the floor, I think that's something to hold your head up about. So Bones chipped in. Bones has looked like I can't say how I can't speak enough on how happy I am with how Bones has looked. This early on in the season in preseason too. He's just looked like he's added an element to his game. He hasn't necessarily because he's always been a pretty decent shooter.
Uh huh.
He's an underrated finisher, I think. And now that he's added some muscle, I think that'll help him. Be an even better finisher, absorb some contact. But it's more so just the way that he's handled himself on the court. He just looks a little bit more decisive, and so that's what I've liked. The Portland game, and even in this game, despite the loss, 22 minutes, 12 points. It wasn't amazing, but I think that that's the kind of thing that we need from our guys coming off the bench, just to give you a little something, give you at least 10, 12 13 points. And thought that he did really, a pretty admirable job, 5 for 10 from the field. So yeah, there was good to take away from this game. Um, and uh, and yeah, I think that for the most part, particularly after that Spurs game yesterday, I think that despite that loss in Utah, I think that it's been a good start to the season so far. And Rola, you said you didn't watch. Rola didn't watch that Spurs game yesterday.
No, but can I just cut you off really quick?
No,
I'm gonna be honest right now. Me and Nick, we're in a fantasy league, so
we are.
our lives are very heavily into basketball right now. Um, but in some real life issues right now, I have forgotten to set my fantasy lineup, so I am requesting we get jump right into hot take, shot take, and then we can resume the summary of the Spurs game
Yes,
after that to give me a chance to set my lineup right now before the 5 o'clock games.
I got you. I got you. Okay,
So
so
Nick, take it away
yeah, yeah, yeah.
with the
So we
hot
have
take.
we're gonna do a segment. We're gonna do a segment on this show. We're gonna test it out a little bit, see how you guys like it. We're gonna call it hot take, shot take, and what that is particularly Rola. Rola loves his hot takes. I'm a little bit more reserved with my approach, my opinions of the game. But what we're gonna do is, if we have a hot take that we want to unload, put out into the stratosphere, the basketball stratosphere, we are going to have to take a shot. So I'm going to pour myself a little Maker's Mark.
Oof.
I'll do a little more than that. And my hot take is, and maybe this is just optimism because it kind of needs to happen. Like I said, we need to start out this season strong. My hot take is going to be the Clippers through the first 15 games of the season are going to be 13-2. Their record is going to be 13-2. They are only going to have 2 losses.
So you think we're gonna
After,
in the who are we playing? I think we have some pretty difficult. I think we have some pretty difficult matchups coming up, right?
well, we play, and we'll get to that after we quickly preview the
The
Spurs
Spurs game.
game, or not preview, give a recap of the Spurs game.
Hmm.
But yeah, we play the Magic tomorrow. We're recording this episode on Monday the 30th. We play the Orlando Magic tomorrow on Tuesday. I guess it's fucking Halloween tomorrow, is it
Yeah,
not? Yeah,
yeah.
it's Halloween tomorrow. We're playing the Jazz, or not the Jazz. We're playing the Magic on Halloween, and then we have a back-to-back against the Lakers, which hoping is going to be a dub. I mean,
Should be. I,
beat
I don't think
we
we've
beat
had
their
any
ass
issues in the
the last
recent.
couple. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, so here's to starting the season 13-2 down the
Oof,
hatch. Rolla,
oof.
get those fantasy lineup set.
Yeah, yeah. I set it up. I set it up. So I am not taking a shot because I had a I had a rough Halloween
Whew.
weekend, but I'll be drinking a swig of water.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
We got to
but
stay
in my
hydrated here in Clipper Nation.
Yes, sir. But
Yeah.
I'll be starting my shots next week, and with the intensity of my hot takes, I might be blacked out by the end of the show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, that's what
Um,
we're here for, guys. That's
but
what we are here for. So that was hot take, shot take. Um,
I think
we
my
like to
hot.
have fun here on
Oh
Clip
yeah,
Service, huh?
I got a hot take. I got a hot take.
Does that
I
mean I
think
might have
my
to take a
hot
shot for you?
take is um, Terrence Mann has got to be the third highest scorer on the Clippers if we want to win a championship.
You're saying it has to happen.
I'm saying it has to happen. I think he's got to average the third highest. First two got to be obviously Paul George and Kawhi, and I think third has got to be Terrence Mann. I think we got to give him the rock more. We'll see the transformation he made, but I think we got to give him the rock more and give him more opportunities to score.
I don't agree, but here's to that.
Whoa, what's
Terrence
your
doesn't need
rebut?
to be the third option on offense.
I think so. I think he has that. I think he has the capabilities. I think he has the skill set to go off every game.
Oh yeah,
and he brings the energy. And if he brings the energy and we give him the ball and he has the ball in his hands, he gets a lot of offensive rebounds. He gets the ball in his hands. I think he can average 15, 20, and I think that could be third on the in our team on our team. Why not?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. We'll see. We'll see. Terrence doesn't need to do all that though. Terrence, Terrence brings it in other parts of the game.
but
But
I think he can do
that's
everything. I think he can do what he usually does, and I think he can add on to that. You know what I mean? I think if he has more minutes and he gets the ball in his hands more, he can add on to what he already does, what he's already so good at. You know?
I would love to see it. I would love to see it. I don't think that
Yeah.
it's necessary though. I don't
That's
think
what
that
I'm
it's
saying. That's why it's
necessary.
a hot take, baby.
Yeah. Well, I just took a shot for you, so you owe me one. Next week, Roll's going to take 7 shots.
Whoa.
So you heard it here first. So anyway, we're gonna move on to the Spurs game, which I watched because I'm a loyal Clipper fan. Rolla didn't watch because he doesn't care about this team.
Uh,
Um,
I don't know. I
and
had some prior commitments,
Rolla did
but
go to a SZA concert, so we can give him a pass. We can give him
yes.
a pass. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think going into the game, obviously Victor Wembanyama has been the talk of the town. He's been probably the most anticipated rookie since LeBron James. Zion had a lot of hype, but I think that I think Wembanyama is kind of like a whole new beast. 7'4", able to handle the ball like a guard, can pull up. I think he's still. I think personally, he's still more raw than people think. But I think that if everything goes well, if he can stay healthy, if his 3-point shot becomes consistent, if he's able to be confident enough to utilize his handle, the way that we've seen in his highlights and his highlight reels, then yeah, I think that he can live up to the hype. I mean, these are lofty expectations that we have for this guy, but I think that he's gonna be special. He's gonna be a special
Hmm.
talent. He's only 19, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's young,
So yeah,
and
he
I think
is.
once he builds some muscle, he's gonna be so good. He's got a 3-point shot. He's
He can
got
block shots. He's got
handles.
really good mobility, lateral quickness.
Yeah, he's
There's really
unreal.
there's really nothing. There's really never been anything like him. And that's if everything goes as planned.
Right.
There's always the possibility of any young player falling short of expectations. That's just how it goes.
Hmm.
But he's a phenom, and going into this game, you kind of have to prep for that. But I think that the biggest name of the game going into the game was we got to be physical. Zoo is much bigger, much stronger than Wemby, and same thing with Plumlee. Our front court, they're both vets. They're both more traditional bigs, big and strong. Um, More imposing centers. So I think the biggest thing was be physical. And it wasn't only Zoo and Plum. I think Kawhi, PG, everybody kind of had to attack that front court, get Wemby in foul trouble. Kind of put him off balance a little bit. And so I think that we did a good job of that right away. I think that we definitely played the more physical game. And
Hmm.
from what I was able to see, I didn't watch the whole game, but from what I was able to see, Clippers looked like they were the more physical, more experienced team, and obviously it showed. We pulled out the win. I think 40-point win, something like that, and it was a pretty
Yeah.
decisive win all the way through. It was very
Hmm.
similar to what we saw with Portland, um,
I
and
think this
uh,
might have
and
even been a better game. Because I mean,
I
we
think it
dropped the
was.
same amount of points,
I'm checking the stats
123,
right now.
and just contributions from everyone. Paul George 19, Kawhi 21, Zubac 16, Russell Westbrook 19 points. I mean, Bones Highland 18. Just I mean, Norman Powell 13 points. It's just everyone was contributing. It seems like everyone got their shots up. Everyone was efficient. Russell Westbrook 8 of 13. Kawhi 6 of 13, Paul George 8 of 17. I mean, good games from everyone all around. Bones Highland
Yeah,
7 of 14. So I think it was just a good
totally.
game all around.
It was.
Lots of points. Looks like we played some pretty good defense. I don't see any standouts from the Spurs side. So
Well,
just
yeah, I
kind of
think the
going off the
biggest thing
box score,
was
it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was holding Wemby to 11 points. He was a minus 14. And like I said, I think this kid's going to be amazing. But I think, not only did we set the tone on offense, but I think we set the tone on defense. Paul George had 5 steals. The Clippers were getting their hands on everything. Just making this younger team feel uncomfortable. And it's not just Wemby. Devin Vassell can get his shot. I
Mhm.
think he's one of the most underrated young guys in the league right now. They have guys, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, big point guard. He's playing point this year, which I think is great. Um, uh, they have Trey Jones coming off the bench. They have the young pieces, but they're young. And, I think that we had to come into the game treating this team like they were a lottery team, like they were last year until proven otherwise. And I think we did that. We set the tone, got our hands on all the loose balls, played a really physical game. And it showed, it showed across the box score. It's Kawhi 21, Paul George 19 with 5 steals, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. Russ had chipped in with 19, Bones 18. It looked good across the board. One thing that I really liked, which kind of flew under the radar this game, was KJ Martin having 10 points. A lot of it wasn't garbage time, but I think that KJ Martin can be a really big piece this year. I've been a big fan of KJ Martin since he came into the league. I was a fan of his dad, the short time that he played for the Clippers. Shouts out Kenyon Martin Sr. And I think, he's a Sierra Canyon kid. My brother's friend went to Sierra Canyon for a couple of years. We ended up going out and seeing one of the games a couple years ago and seeing Marvin Bagley play. I think it was Sharif O'Neal, and I think a year or two after that was when KJ was there. But I like the story. I like him as a player. I think that his 3 point shot has a lot to he's got to tweak it around a little bit. Got to get more consistent with it. But he's an amazing cutter, and he's one of the best most explosive finishers in the league right now. I think, at his age, and I think that the Clippers got to be able to find him off those back cuts, and I think that this was probably his best game as a Clipper so far. He had a couple really nice cuts. And I think that in garbage time he had a nice cut. Musa Diabate, sweet bounce pass to him for an easy dunk. I think we got to try and get him involved. And he looked good. Didn't look good. I don't even know if he played against the Jazz, but I know that he wasn't much of a factor at all. And I think that I liked what I saw from him. If the Clippers can find him more, when he gets minutes, I think if the Clippers can find him more on those cuts, or just use him as a slasher and use him to get to the rim, get easy buckets. He can
Mhm.
finish through contact, no problem. He can jump out of the building. So I liked what I saw from him. I like that he got a little bit of burn in garbage time too. So that was kind of one of the more under the radar things that I liked about that game. It was just a good game all around. I mean, it's hard to nitpick at things when you win by 40 points. There
Yeah.
really wasn't much that I disliked in that game. I'm looking at the stats right now. I kind of checked out the last quarter. Um, but yeah, it was just kind of a good game all around. 16 turnovers isn't great, but when you win by 40, who cares?
And
Yeah,
kind of going off of that, I think one thing about the Clippers in previous years, kind of going back to the quote unquote load management and not taking the regular season seriously. Um, I think one thing that a lot of teams do, the Warriors do this really well. That's because they're good every single year, but they blow out teams by the third quarter, and their stars basically take off the entire fourth quarter, and that's a way of load management, basically destroying your team and blowing them out in 3 quarters. And you take out, and so you're playing. Kawhi is playing 28 minutes. Paul George is playing 28 minutes. I mean, Russell Westbrook is playing 27 minutes, and we get to put on our bench players, and they get to just keep the lead. But I think
yep,
that's a way that that's the mentality we need to have going into every game. Instead of thinking, oh, we have 4 quarters, let's disperse up our points. Let's take the first quarter. No, we got to go hard for 3 quarters, blow every team. Well, I don't want to say every team because that's unrealistic. But these teams like the Spurs, like these young teams, I mean, they're up and coming. They're, like you said, they're lottery teams. We need to be going hard and blowing them out in 3 quarters, and our stars need to be taking that time off, the fourth quarter. So at the end of the year, the amount of minutes they would have played is around the same, to where if they just didn't play a few games during the year, you know what I mean? Because
Totally.
if they're taking off hella fourth quarters, I mean, it's going to add up, you
That
know?
kind of thing adds up for sure, and that's a perfect way to encapsulate that. I think that the thing that I've liked the most about these first three games is, obviously despite the Jazz game in Portland and against San Antonio, um, we've handled business and we've
Hmm.
put teams away that we should be putting away. We set the tone early and took them out of the game. Young teams are young teams, and when you start acting like the adult in the room, as we should be, we got a bunch of vets, we got a bunch of battle tested guys. That takes younger guys out of the game pretty quickly. So, and that's not something that we saw last year, and even in the years prior, we really we went into opposing arenas and even at home against lower seeded teams, and it would be a close game, or we'd even lose because we underestimated our opponent, and we
Hmm.
kind of walked in thinking that we were just owed a win, and I haven't seen that. I really haven't seen that so far this season, and so far everything that we've been promised this offseason has come to fruition. I think that we've taken things seriously and we've put teams away, and I think that's what we need to do. We need to continue doing that, and I think that's something that we need to do tomorrow against the Orlando Magic. I think the Magic have a bunch of really good pieces. Um, I think Franz Wagner is next up. They obviously have Paolo Banchero, who I
Hmm.
think is an amazing player.
He's
They have
great.
those pieces. Yeah, Markel Fultz is having quietly stringing together some of the best years of his career, having like a resurgence. They
Hmm.
have the pieces, and they Wendell Carter is super underrated. They have pieces to make things tough, and they have a really long, athletic team, and they
Yeah,
give us trouble. Actually, Orlando Magic, believe it or not, have given us trouble in the past, and so I think we need to do the same thing that we did against Portland and that we did
I
against San
agree.
Antonio
I agree.
tomorrow. And I think that we need
They're
to.
Orlando Matt. They're a good team, but they're not,
Well, I
like,
wouldn't go
realistically,
that
they're not
far.
on our level. And
Wouldn't go that far.
if we come out hard, Paul George comes out being Paul George.
Yeah.
Kawhi comes
No,
out being. I
totally.
mean, we know Kawhi's going to come out being Kawhi. But if everyone plays their role and everyone does their job, we should be up by a large amount by the end of the third quarter, and this shouldn't be a problem. I think
Totally.
that's where we lapsed in the Jazz game, because I mean the Jazz shouldn't be hanging around with us either. These teams are just not on our level, and that's just the truth of it. They don't have a Kawhi Leonard on their team,
Right.
and that's just how it is. Um, so I think with the Orlando Magic, I'm expecting a similar score line. I would say my prediction for the score line would be. I'm thinking. I mean, we've been putting up a lot of points recently in those first couple games, so um, I'm gonna say 110, 125. How about
Okay.
you?
I like it. I like it.
Clippers, obviously.
Yeah, I think you know, I think that the Magic, like I said, they have a lot of length. They have a lot of athleticism. I don't necessarily think that we're going to be putting up a ton of points I think it's at home yeah, against the Magic, but
Mhm.
I think that we can get the win pretty easily. I think that we'll probably my guess just off the top of my head is let's say 106-91.
Wow.
Yeah,
The first three games we put up what was it, 123 twice, and the Jazz game we put up 118. I mean, our guys have been balling, and that Jazz game they didn't even play well. You know, Russell Westbrook had 4 points.
I'm sticking to it. I've also had two shots, so I don't want to think. I don't, I'm just going to say the first numbers that come to my mind.
I feel you.
That's what I think. I think that we're probably going to end up, taking command early. I think that I mean, it should very well be a lead all the way through.
Hmm.
Um, I think that we win that game, and I think that we need to. I think the most important part to remember is, I think, to put them away early, rest our guys in the fourth, rest our starters in the fourth, because the day after we do have a back to back against the Lakers. That will be, we've done a pretty good job against the Lakers in the last couple of years, but we can't underestimate them either. Obviously, they have LeBron James, Anthony Davis. I think that they They added some good depth this season. They retained Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura. They added guys like Torian Prince, and I don't think Christian Wood's particularly good, but I think that he addresses a need for them. Obviously, he can get it going
Hmm.
when his shot's falling. They added that needed depth. And I think they were already a pretty deep team. D'Angelo Russell can get it going. So I think that we need to I keep saying the Jazz, put the Magic away early so that we can rest our guys to get ready
True.
for the Lakers. And you know what? I'm going to say we win both games. And I think that we go into the first 5 games of the season with only one loss. And
I agree.
I think that I think it's perfectly possible. We just got to do it. I think, and that starts with handling business against Orlando because we do have a test, and we probably have to play a little bit more focused against the Lakers. They're going to have something to play for.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that if all goes well, I think my prediction stands 4-1. I think that we can escape these first 5 games with only that loss against the Jazz. So that's my prediction. I'm sticking to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do tomorrow and the next day. So, Rola, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, that's about it. I mean, I agree with you. I think I personally, I don't see us losing to the Lakers. I think even if the game with the Orlando Magic goes the distance, I think we get up for the Lakers every time. I don't
We
think we're
do.
gonna have tired legs like that. Just because you know we are considered smaller team in LA than the Lakers, so the motivation for to us and
So
for our
I've heard.
team
Yeah, so I've heard.
is yeah. I mean, the motivation is just it's just too much. I don't think we're. I mean, I don't think that we lose to the Lakers. I think that we get up for the Lakers, but I do think that because of that, we might lose the next game after. I'm not sure who we're playing. I don't know if you know, but I could see
Let me
that
check.
back to back having and
We're playing
going
the
all out for the
Knicks. We're playing the
Lakers.
Knicks next.
Yeah,
So
that's gonna. I think that's gonna be a tough game
okay,
after the Lakers, and that might be where the second loss in your prediction
we'll see.
comes from.
We'll see.
But
Man, I'm
yeah,
ready to go.
overall,
I'm changing it up. We're only gonna win. We're only gonna lose one game in the next in our first 15.
all right, all right.
I'm changing it up,
Maybe
guys. Come on
we'll
now.
see. I mean, we'll see. I'm a little bit more realistic.
Yeah,
I think
whatever.
that those. I mean, I think the Knicks is a tough matchup. I think if they're at home in New York, I think it'll be tough for us.
That's a
Just
hard
because,
building to play in.
yeah, I think
MSG.
they kind of have a little bit more of a motivation this year. I think just because the New York Knicks fans have just been kind of hounding that team. Julius
They
Randle has
always do, though.
kind of been seen as like not as good as he makes himself out to be. And I
Okay,
think
okay.
that
Shots
we have a
fired.
lot of motivation. But I mean, overall, I'm not too worried. First 15 games, I think the Clippers are focused. We seem more a little bit more focused than in previous years. So we'll see. You never know. We could
Totally.
go. We could only have one loss in the first 15, but we'll see.
All right.
Um, yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I think that we're gonna get back to you guys. We'll probably record our next episode 2 on Sunday, and we will have the Orlando game and the Lakers game to talk about. Hoping to get 2 straight wins and feel good about this season. I think that, like I said, the fact that we've kept the same core and the fact that we're running it back, I think we need to start the season like like it's like it is the last dance, as some people are
Hmm.
calling it. So I think that's really important, and I'm hoping that we can get through this 4-1 in the first 5 games. So we will get back to you guys on that on Sunday, and any other questions or concerns will be addressed at that time. So
Yep.
we appreciate you guys tuning in. Listening to us. Like I said, we're kind of trying to figure this out ourselves. So bear with us. I think that we got some great content for you coming up We're going to be on YouTube and Spotify. We're going to try and get out on more platforms as we go along. We're on. You can find us on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck it's called now, at Clip Service Pod. Get at us, reach out to us, ask us any questions, give us a follow, subscribe, comment, all that shit. We really do appreciate you guys tuning in. And until next week, go Clips.